Good morning, this is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More. Let me get myself together here. This poem that I'm doing, I went to TS Eliot for today because he is an immortal who is associated with runestones. Ralph H. Bloom, as I'm using here in his book, therefore recommends T.S. Eliot. And so early on, I realized about myself something as far as my spiritual side is that I need poetry like I need to breathe. I need nature like I need to breathe, and that's the pagan side of me. I was just telling somebody in my life that I'm coming to the realization that J.R.R. Tolkien has rewritten the Bible. That it's for neither Jew nor Gentile. It's for neither slave or freed. It's for neither male or female. And so the Bible itself, the Quran, other ancient books like that, the Word of God never passes away for the Jews, or the Jews wouldn't be here. People have been trying to annihilate them for generations. That being said, J.R.R. Tolkien is one of the greatest balancing forces between Jew and Gentile that the world has ever seen, and I am not overstating the matter. It takes a simplicity that is intelligent indeed to be the man who actually wrote all of that. I can't foresee myself going through all of his writings, but I have a feeling I will do it. The key with someone like me who applies art and runes and even tarot and things to someone like him, his writings, Elizabeth and Barrett and Robert Browning poetry is the same way. T.S. Eliot is a little bit more narrow of a view with runes, and that's good. I need to know which poets or which genre in my life. It is a tremendous privilege to say applying artwork and oracle to these great authors is a lifelong calling that I have, among others, and I am delighted with how slow you actually need to go if you're in my position. I am delighted. This is T.S. Eliot's Choruses from the Rock, 1934, which is when my father was born. And some of these have gone unarted, may not be in my book with T.S. Eliot's poetry, and this is a book that I will go through and go through and go through. Sometimes the ancient side of me needs to say, it's good to read it, maybe even twice, but let it sit there for a minute. And there's several of these. I thought I was going to do this whole series because this is, let's see, this is 10 poems, Choruses from the Rock. It's not even the whole thing. So, I have been called to number 7 today for a Thanksgiving reset because I don't celebrate Thanksgiving because the indigenous people of this land are not being treated properly still. There are white people that have organized and are shooting our people, all of us, in public places. There are white people who hate and are proud of it. The rest of us white people will not be tainted with this ugliness. That means, and to a degree, and white people, good white people, have worked hard all of our lives like everyone else we're going to have to work harder. The burden is upon us more to a degree than other skin colors because of this madness of wickedness. And of course we know this stripped through Hitler killing Jews began this more obvious strain of wickedness. Okay, but there were things there were leaders before this time, and it is also not saying that there aren't extremely wicked black leaders and other and whatnot. Again, we sadly have in the modern day black men who are misusing people and have to go to jail. Bill Cosby being one of the biggies right now. And they let him out, they let him on social media. None of that is wise. I don't care what your skin color is. There comes a point where you need to just live your life without all of that. You should not have any reach in your ability to touch people after hurting people the way you have. And that is the truth. Honestly, in this day and age, for some of us, like me, who realm travels and has a calling on my life to meld the minds across goodness and greatness, using art, using books and whatnot, it is quite the opposite. We cannot walk around freely. We are judged constantly for our work. My whole testimony is like that. So I'm getting there, practicing discipline in a different way than what the Christian church taught me. And Thanksgiving is very much too Christian. It's Christianized. It isn't even honest. So I'm resetting it. And so it is appropriate for me to use poetry. And lo and behold, I'm called by TS Eliot, who's here, which is a privilege to be able to say, and automatically knew I was supposed to read this poem. And it's hard to explain that part of my life, but it is a true part of me. Have already read drawn the runes, have not written them yet into the meaning here. That will come with the artwork, okay? I'm going to read the poem. This is from the Choruses from the Rock. T.S. Eliot wrote it in 1934. I hooked up 911 and Stranger Things, the whole program, because of the young people and how beautiful they are with this. I have phoenixes that are my daughters, five of my daughters in Shystery. My terminology for the history of humankind, not, and then there's another word, because when I'm talking about Shystery, I don't use any words that have man in the terminology of the word, because the domination of man is coming down, and men of power who are great with their women of power who are great share power. Don't do war. And that is that. All right. So this is poem 7 of a 10-poem spread. It is not the full The Choruses of the Rock, and I hope to someday have time to thoroughly enjoy the whole thing. In the beginning, God created the world, waste and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And when there were men in their various ways, they struggled in torment towards God in all capitals, blindly and vainly. For man is a vain thing, and man without God in all capitals is a seed upon the wind, driven this way and that, and finding no place of lodgment and germination. Now, he is explaining the doctrine of the Bible and the Christian church in the modern day. That's all he's doing right here. They followed the light and the shadow, and the light led them forward to light, and the shadow led them to darkness, worshiping snakes or trees, worshiping devils rather than nothing, crying for life beyond life, for ecstasy, not of the flesh. Waste and void, and darkness on the face of the deep. And the Spirit moved upon the face of the water, and men who turned towards the light and were known of the light invented the higher religions, and the higher religions were good, and led men from light, to knowledge of good and evil. But their light was ever surrounded and shot with darkness, as the air of temperate seas is pierced by the still dead breath of the Arctic current. And they came to an end, a dead end stirred with a flicker of life. And they came to the withered ancient look of a child that has died of starvation. Prayer wheels, worship of the dead, denial of this world, affirmation of rights with forgotten meanings. In the restless, wind-whipped sand, or the hills where the wind will not let the snow rest, waste and void, and darkness on the face of the deep. All of you in megachurches, all of you positive about the shootings that are happening because you believe in civil war, you are waste and void, is what I am saying. Then came, at a predetermined moment, a moment in time and of time, a moment not out of time, but in time, in what we call history, transecting, bisecting the world of time, a moment in time, but not like a moment of time. A moment in time, but time was made through that moment. For without the meaning, there is no time, and that moment of time gave the meaning. Then it seemed as if men must proceed from light to light in the light of the Word, capital W-O-R-D, through the passion and sacrifice saved in spite of their negative being. Bestial as always before, carnal, self-seeking as always before, selfish and purblind as ever before. Yet always struggling, always reaffirming, always resuming their march on the way that was lit by the light. Often halting, loitering, straying, delaying, returning, yet following no other way. But it seems that something has happened that has never happened before, though we know not just when or why or how or where. Men have left God, in all capitals, not for other gods, they say, but for no God, all small letters. And this has never happened before. That men both deny gods and worship gods, professing first in a capital R, reason, and then money, capital M, and power, capital P, and what they call life, capital L, or race, capital R, or dialectic, capital D. The church disowned, the tower overthrown, the bells upturned. What have we to do? But stand with empty hands and palms turned upwards in an age which advances progressively backwards? Okay, in all capitals, voice of the unemployed afar off. In this land, there shall be one cigarette for 2 men. To 2 women, 1/2 pint of bitter ale. Chorus. What does the world say? Does the whole world stray in high-powered cars on a bypass way? Voice of the unemployed, more faintly. In this land, no man has hired us. Chorus. Waste and void, and darkness on the face of the deep. Has the church failed mankind, or has mankind failed the church? When the church is no longer regarded, not even opposed, and men have forgotten all good gods except usury, lust, and power, all in capital letters. But the first letter is capitalized. Don't like my details? Get off my website. How a poet writes words means something. The saving of us, by and large, is in finding the books of old that are young, but tell us the truth. And there's a lot of poetry that does that. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, not in my home, and agreed with them that it is not the tradition that we should follow on Thanksgiving in America. Not in this age, not in this time, not in this void, not in this wasteland. And indeed, T.S. Eliot has a whole set of poems called The Wasteland. Is it the next one? No, I've come upon it here. He has minor poems and major poems. He's quite adept at this thing called Life of a Poet. And the one, I will close with saying the one thing that brings me joy is that I don't need to be these people that have written this way. Who are they, Kara? Well, I would say J.R.R. Tolkien is the lead dude. I would say that under him, around him, supporting each other, thus far I have met and will continue to be with T.S. Eliot, Ralph H. Bloom's Oracle. I have another Oracle of runes that is helpful. It's of a lower level rune, and that's fine. I have two sets. I have one set of tarot now, Spirit Emeralds, and I'm going to go into cartology, which is bicycle deck. That's going to be a long process. So I am glad I got to this place. Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett, and then when they married, because Robert Browning fucked patriarchy in the 1800s. It's a very romantic, though difficult story. And he was attacked all his life for his poetry. So, fuck that. The man needs to be listened to. He knew what love was. He knows what love is. It has nothing. It is devoid of patriarchy, which Texas needs to listen to Robert Browning. And indeed, if you look up the maps and whatnot, there's a street, Robert Browning Street now. And I found it last Sunday. It was a divine appointment that I'm going to treasure the rest of my life because of the work that I'm doing with Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Browning. The phone right now, you're listening to something that's sitting on their book. It's an old blue hardcover book. I hope I can find a better one of it. And it's the more dear for being old, but I've got to be careful with it. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is so accurate, it takes my breath away just to say his name. And I have one of his compilations as well. I have put him with the other set of runes. He is so practical, it's just amazing. Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Browning are with now. I have put them with my spirit animals because there's a love that's it's devoid of religion. I don't know how people back in that day did it, but yet I do. Because they didn't have to deal with screens like Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z are having to do for the rest of humanity's existence. There has to be a discipline with it. Some people should not be rejected because they don't want to be a part, by and large, of that. We've got a lot of work to do. Artificial intelligence cannot and should not take away the value of nature, of relationship, and of love never fails. So there's a balancing act that we are required to create. It's not recreate, it's create. To bring forth something that is beautiful. I see it more and more the older I get, but I have faced too much inherent deep wickedness. TS Eliot explains it well here in this poem. So it is time to gently yet lovingly say goodbye to traditions that are too steeped in Christian ideology that is lies. It is very, 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 I'm going to call it wicked, because Christians by and large in America are being taught that our core is wicked. J.R. Tolkien, 2 interviews that I've taken in, and I'm going to have to look at them again, listen again. Even his most wicked characters were based in goodness. They chose the wickedness, and that is a key point in history. In the discussions we had yesterday, the other key point, which is groundbreaking. It is literally groundbreaking. It can't even go on my blogs. It's too groundbreaking. The Bible is for the Jews. If you can submit one to another with the Jewish nation, you can use the wisdom in it. You can understand their true place in world history. You can use the wisdom in it, but we've got too many people in the United States that want a Bible, New Testament particularly, to be Gentile, and it's not. It is a Jewish book. It must be respected as such. The Quran is a Middle Eastern book, and it must be respected as such. That doesn't mean I couldn't get some wisdom from it. But I will tell you who we need to really embrace, and it's going to take your intelligence waking up, and that is J.R.R. Tolkien and these poets I'm talking about, because they knew that they knew that they know that they know what I'm telling you right now. That doesn't mean they could have put it into words. That's what metaphysical intelligence is. I do not own some of what I say. I know it's coming from an ancient core that I can't explain. I know I didn't say it. My voice was used at times. My family's used to it, but my voice is used, but it's not me. And I never thought it was. It's just being a conduit of ancient wisdom. And then there's times when I have to work on my angers, frustrations, rages even against wars and rumors of wars that continue to spit out into what I just had to tell someone we were talking about, and I was like, this is what is harming you. It was Curtis. This is what is harming white men right now, and my men are extremely furious at this, and they have every right to be. The shooter in the Q Club 2 days ago, I think, he was beat up. That was appropriate. They had to take him down. But the dad was interviewed. It's all over my Twitter. It makes me sick, so I'm staying off Twitter today. Point blank saying, white man, old South white man, when he found out that his son was in there killing gays, he was just relieved. This is the father. He was just relieved that his son wasn't gay. Let that sink in, bitches. Let that sink in. That is an orc father. J.R.R. Tolkien's people. There's some goodness somewhere in that past. But that dad, the women and children who support, obviously, who support that, they're orcs. If you can't see that, I'm going to ask you, what's the matter with you? I know your intelligence is higher than that. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovered